My dad and I took some DNA tests for fun. Which ruin our lives and family in seconds. We've all been seeing the recent craze of DNA testing and whatnot. So my dad and I decided to jump on the bandwagon and we bought two from 23andMe. We got our results back a few days ago and I went into the DNA relatives section to check out my matches. At the top it listed my dad as only sharing 29.2% DNA with me and being predicted to be a half-brother, which is impossible. This didn't make sense to me since we also shared a paternal haplogroup and we just look so alike, so he was definitely my father. My cousin also had taken the test a while back and she shared 24.6% with me, also predicted to be my half-sibling. We're supposed to share around 12%, being first cousins. I couldn't think of a genetic relationship that would explain what I was seeing and I had doubts in the accuracy of the percentages, so I made this post on r23andMe, asking for help. Basically, the shared percentages are extremely accurate and highly unlikely to be false. The only realistic explanation for what I was seeing was that my uncle, my cousin's father and my dad's brother, is my father. Reality hit me in the face like a flying bag of bricks. All the dots lined up and I felt a sense of loss. I sat in my room for an hour just in shock and then I had a feeling of anger come over me. I needed some fucking answers. Without even thinking, I rushed out of my room and confronted my mother downstairs. My mom is a businesswoman and is often away on business trips. She had no idea my dad and I had done one of these tests since she was away on a trip and just got back. My mother and I never had a traditional relationship. She was always focused on her work and my dad ended up mostly raising me. My irrational self didn't even sugarcoat it. I asked her if she cheated on dad with Uncle David, name changed for obvious reasons. I have never seen the color drain from someone's face so quickly. She looked dumbfounded and then mumbled, "What kind of question is this?" Of course not. I told her everything, the test, percentages, DNA matches, all of it shit hit the fan. My mom fell to the ground crying, begging me not to tell dad. I left her there and went back into my room. I called my cousin, now half-sibling, and told her everything. She ended the call screaming. Dad, now uncle, then came home and stumbled into my room asking what's wrong with mom. I told him everything too. He didn't say anything after calming down. He left the room and I locked the door. For the next few hours, I heard my entire family fall apart outside my door. My parents got into a heated argument and my grandparents rushed over to see what was going on. My aunt-in-law and David showed up shortly later and I'm pretty sure I heard my dad and David get into some physical fight. Utter chaos. I feel like fucking shit. It's not my fault, but I can't help feeling that this is all because of me. If I had spent my fucking birthday money on something else, none of this would have happened, but another part of me is glad to know the truth. I'm too scared to go outside. I don't even know what the outcome was. The only noise I hear in the house now is the occasional sobbing coming from my mother and I am sure my dad is out of the house. Fuck my life. TLDR, mom and uncle, both having spouses of their own, fucked, made me, and proceed to not tell anyone. I take a DNA test 19 years later and it all comes crashing down. I've locked myself in my room and I'm pretty sure my family has ceased to exist outside. Update. Thanks for the support guys. Means a lot. Back to where we were. I eventually left my room, called my dad, and he was actually at the hospital with my grandmother. She couldn't handle the situation and had a heart attack right when she went home. I knew my mother was still in the house, but I left her there, again, without saying a word and went to the hospital. I got to the hospital, saw my grandmother, she's in stable condition, and then sat down with my dad to talk. First thing we told each other was that this situation didn't change our relationship. He was still my father and I was still his son. I got the confirmation of my dad and David getting into some altercation. Dad told me he fucked him up really hard. My mother had told my dad that she was drunk and David pet her. The only reason she had not told anyone was out of fear of destroying my father's family. Dad then suggested going to the police. She refused and then started to slightly change her story, making my dad doubt her claim. That's when David and everyone else came over. David claimed my mother was lying to save her own ass and that they had consensual sex. As of now, my dad and I have no idea who to believe. He says his relationships with my mother and David had always been good. He's not sure what to do. David's wife is filing for divorce since this occurred after they were married. My cousin is holding up alright, although she's still pretty shaken up. My dad and I have been staying with my grandparents for the past week until we figure out what to do. Any advice would help. Thank you. Sorry if this sounds rushed. I typed this on my way to class. The LDR, grandma had heart attack. Mom claimed David raped her, David denies that. Cousin's mother is filing for divorce. Dad and I are staying with my grandparents for now. Story number 2. My family insulted my wife in front of me, called her burden. So I left my family. So I'm 22 years and my wife is 21 years old. We have been together since childhood. We have been dating since I was 17. The problem is she met with an accident when she was 11 and since then she couldn't walk. We are working on it, but it isn't promising at all. So we got married 8 months ago. My family and hers and our friends all joined us. My family criticized me for marrying so early and being rash. I have 2 elder brothers who are 2 years apart and 1 elder sister who's 4 years older than me. They attended my wedding and I thought they accepted her, but a few days ago, we had a family dinner because finally my eldest sister was going to get married. Everything was going well, we joked around, drank, ate, danced etc. etc. My wife was sleepy, so I took her upstairs and put her to sleep. She can't handle alcohol at all. I came downstairs and after a while out of nowhere my sister said that it's better if my wife is not present in her wedding. I thought it was a joke, so I laughed. She said she was serious. I asked her why. She simply said that she want me to be beside her and not carry my wife around. I was like, what, she's not a burden, she's family, and I told her that. She said after that, she accepts my wife, but I will end up paying too much attention my wife instead of being with her, and it's only reasonable that a brother should always be with her sister during her wedding. I just said I will always be with her, she doesn't have to worry about my wife. That's when my brothers came in. They said that I have done enough for my wife and it's time for me to do something for my sister. They said I should have married another woman instead of a burden. I looked at my dad and he just gave me a sign to calm down, but my mother joined as well and told me that my siblings are right. My wife shouldn't join the wedding cause I won't pay attention to my siblings and wedding and keep taking care of my wife. I finally lost my cool. After hearing all this I went sober. I said if my wife is not invited, then I'm not invited either. I said I'm leaving. As I was going upstairs to wake my wife up and leaving, my family stopped me and said I'm being unreasonable. I said I'm not in the mood RN. If I hear another offensive word, I'll do something we all will regret. So I just grabbed my wife and went back home. She asked why we left. I said I got urgent work in the morning. My boss called me on short notice. She bought it, but my family keeps saying I was in the wrong for threatening them. So I defer the way I reacted. Story number there. I got pregnant and now my boyfriend's family hates me. So me, 18F, and my boyfriend, 18M, have been together for about a year and a half. I've always been really close with his family and was friends with his sisters before we even started dating. His family isn't very well off, but they are good people and I've loved them since I've met them. He has 4 sisters. 2 are 16. 1 is 14 and 1 is 8. In March of this year I found out I was pregnant even though I was on birth control. I freaked out and didn't tell my boyfriend right away, but instead told my best friend. That turned out to be a huge mistake. I had asked her to throw out the pregnancy test because I had taken it at my house and was afraid of my mom finding it. Instead she brought it to my boyfriend's house and showed it to his sisters. And all of the people around me found out. Everyone mostly acted as though it was a joke. Lots of them were trying to convince me to get an abortion. I am pro-choice, but I didn't think I could mentally deal with going through with it myself. I deal with a lot of mental health issues and honestly being pregnant gave me something to fight for. When I told my boyfriend about the baby I told him I would understand if he wanted to leave since we are so young and I wanted to keep it. The last thing I wanted to do was trap him and make him feel like he had to now raise this kid at only 18. He asked if I would consider getting rid of it and when I said no he said that he understood and it was my choice, but he wasn't going to leave and stuck with me. Sadly when I was around 3 months along I ended up having a miscarriage. No one in my family knew about the baby and it was really hard to go through alone. I was home alone for the weekend when it happened. I called my boyfriend sobbing to tell him and he was honestly relieved. He let out a little laugh and didn't even ask if I was okay. Now I'm honestly glad it happened because if that's how he reacted to a miscarriage, he was not ready to be a parent. I slowly told everyone else in my life who knew about the pregnancy and I thought everything was fine. I've slowly been drifting apart from my boyfriend's sisters, but I figured that was fine because we didn't have that much in common. However, I was so wrong and I found out from a mutual friend that the entire family, not counting my BF, has been talking badly about me behind my back. They said I had lied about the miscarriage to try to baby trap their brother, and since I'm so fat I still look pregnant. For a bit of background, I am 5'4" and 123 pounds. I've struggled with eating issues for years and at one point was 90 pounds and barely alive. This comment made me go back to my unhealthy habits when it comes to food and I've been struggling. Another thing I apparently do is in two faces and manipulating my boyfriend and cheating on him. I've never cheated in a relationship. Cheating is the most disrespectful and disgusting thing someone can ever do. Their proof behind this is they say they saw me switching Snapchat accounts one time. I did that. However, the other account wasn't mine. I had let one of our mutual friends use my phone when theirs was broken to check their Snapchat. I was going back to my own account. Not hiding a second one. I don't understand why they don't like me all of a sudden. We went from hanging out every day until I mentioned I was pregnant. All of a sudden I was like dirt on their shoes. Realizing that they hate me has made me realize everything I've done for them with nothing in return. Like I said, they are not very well off. They are 5 kids with a single mother with no job. My boyfriend is the only one in that house with an income. I have gone out of my way to drive them places. I have let them just sit in my car in school when they didn't have class or felt sick. They are smokers, so I've given them a lot of vapes and other things. I've bought them all food when their mom was out of town. I've gotten them clothes and makeup and the youngest sister's toys. I've literally brought them leftover food from my restaurant job at 10 at night because they were hungry and had nothing at the time. And this is how I get treated. I've never been anything but nice to them and respectful. I've never judged how they live. I have brought one of the girl's best friends a pregnancy test at their house when she had a scare, but they don't hate her now. I just don't know what I did. Sorry that this is kind a lot. I've never said all of this to anyone and just needed to get it off my chest before I explode. Any advice would be nice.